Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show.
Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
I'm John.
Tonight's date is Tuesday, September 13th, and we're going to talk about the victory from this past weekend against Arkansas State. Buckeyes looked pretty good. Handled Arkansas State. Little mistakes throughout the game and stuff, but nothing to be too really upset about, in my opinion, considering all the other craziness that went down through college football. So compared to a lot of teams, Ohio State definitely handled business.
Yeah, I mean, when you larger scope of things, when you look at what happened this week, I mean, you take the win because, like you said, there was a lot of losses this week. Sun Belt teams, did very well in other places of the country. So you take what happened and is what it is. I mean, it was a good game. It was a big win. Passing offense definitely looked like it was going again. Definitely some concerns that we can address, but yeah, all in all, you just take the win for what it was.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get into the game. We'll talk about a few of the things we liked, maybe a couple concerns that we each have. Then we can talk a little bit about the press conferences from today, and trying to think what else we wanted to really hit. Not sure. Is that about what you wanted to do, or is there something else in there?
No, I think that's good.
All right. So, I mean, I thought the game was pretty good. I mean, I know there were some talks on Twitter about some people, especially it's weird. Sometimes Buckeye fans can get weird about as the day went on. It seemed like where everybody was pretty decent with the game. Then it was like after the Notre Dame loss, it was like people started going downhill very fast, that they weren't impressive. Not a majority of the fans, but sometimes Twitter is a weird echo chamber that there seems like there's more negativity than positivity.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of get where they're coming from, in the sense that, like, oh, Notre Dame doesn't mean as much anymore because they lost to Marshall. I mean, I get that, but you didn't look bad in the game. So if it was like some hard fought game that you look terrible in, okay, I can understand where that would come from. Or if, like, Arkansas State, they looked horrible in it, okay, I can get, where you're coming from. But I mean, if you look back at the defense in like 2018, we didn't look good against Oregon State to start the year. Our defense did not. Our offense was fine. Our defense did not look good in that first game. If you look at Minnesota last year, to start the year, our run defense didn't look good to start the year. So I think you kind of, you take this in levels, man. It's like, yeah, maybe dominance against Notre Dame wasn't what you thought it was, but you sure as hell didn't look bad against them. So
no,
there's nothing to be discouraged about.
And I think the thing about this game is, and Ryan Day kind of talked about it a little bit at his press conference today, is that they're not completely like there yet to where they're just putting their foot down on someone's neck. Like, they started really, really fast and they jumped all over them, and then they got kind of slow. They actually had a 3-and-out on offense, and they made some mistakes on defense and let drives happen, but they stopped all the drives and, only gave up some field goals. And, and then in the third quarter, it was like touchdown, 3-and-out on defense, touchdown, 3-and-out on defense, and 3-and-out on offense. So, I mean, and like Ryan Day said that, within a 6-minute period, they went up 14-0. They in the third quarter they scored 14 unanswered, but they could have scored 21 unanswered.
Right.
And that's a completely, different maybe feeling for the whole game that, maybe you start looking to get some of the starters out at that point, and he doesn't push them into the fourth quarter.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like Ryan Day talked about it. You had a 21-point swing. You were there, and the offense didn't live up to that. So it is what it is. You didn't play the cleanest game. I mean, there was, one of my concerns is there's been a lot of penalties in both games. There was a lot of penalties in this game. It was kind of ugly at times, defensively for offsides, pass interference, of course, the Taraja Mitchell punt block situation. So there were some ugly penalties, but I mean, I think you take it, something to move on, learning experience.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot to hang your head about. It's not like, yeah, it's Arkansas State, and it could have been a more dominant, like, foot on the throat type of game, but you didn't look bad in most places.
Yeah. And then you kind of compare and contrast it. I mean, that's what you do at Ohio State. It's not necessarily like in this game, it's not Ohio State playing Arkansas State. It's Ohio State playing Alabama and playing Georgia. And you're always comparing to what they look like against, what would be considered upper echelon teams. And and I know, Texas is a name, but Texas has not been Texas over the last several years. And, maybe they're back, but we won't know for the rest of the season or for a few more games probably. But, I mean, Quinn Ewers gets hurt. Which, I mean, if he doesn't get hurt, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that they beat Alabama. There's a bunch of crap calls against them. I mean, real crap calls. I mean, and I always try not to go necessarily at referees, but they made some awful calls. I mean, there was a bad non-safety call. There was, one or two different bad face masks that should have been called, a bad pass interference that should have been called. I mean, there were some really awful, blatant calls that should have been called. And I mean, even that one where, Ryan Watts at the end of the game, he misses Bryce Young, but there's a god awful hold. And I don't understand how a ref that's paying attention to the quarterback that just almost gets crushed. Literally the hold's right in front of your face. You should have seen that because it came from the same side. And so I don't know how they missed half the stuff that they missed, but they did. And any of that stuff goes for Texas. Texas wins this game. So I saw Alabama, and you could say, well, they played a name team, and Arkansas State's not a name team, and I'll accept all that stuff. But the Alabama that played on Saturday would not have beaten the Ohio State that played on Saturday. And I'm not saying Ohio State beats Alabama next week or beats them in the playoffs or whatever. I'm just comparing them day to day, and Ohio State was the far better team on the field on Saturday. And I mean, and that's what that is to me.
No, I agree with you on that. So, I mean, if you come away with this game, then let's start with negatives. What concern would you have offensively and defensively coming out of this game?
My biggest concern, probably offensively, is just, I don't know. I'm going to still say the running game a little bit, even though they took what Arkansas State gave them. And we said that, and we talked about that last week, that, they didn't maybe take much as what the defense was giving them. They were trying to force stuff when you have a two deep and just run the ball. Well, Arkansas State wasn't running a lot of two deep stuff. And when you listen to Day's press conference today, it seemed like that's kind of why G. Scott played a lot. It was that they were forcing Arkansas State to bring a safety up, and and that's a smart offensive decisions. So I'm not necessarily disappointed in the running because I thought the running was fine. It's just that I think there's still times, even maybe if they have 8 guys in the box, I would have liked to seen let's go push them around a little bit and maybe run a little bit more, because I think we could have pushed them around. The times we ran the ball, it showed that we could push them around. I mean, both Trey and Mayan looked fine in the game, and but at the same time, I think he wanted to get Marv and Ibuka more reps because of the injury situation there. and they took what the defense gave them. They were open. They had, a lot of one-on-ones because of that for those two guys, and they took it. So, I mean, I guess I can't be upset about that. And if next week, or this coming week, if Toledo is back on their heels a little bit more like Notre Dame was, then they need to go back to running the ball. And I think they can do so much on offense. And I just think maybe sometimes, again, living in an echo chamber, that we get frustrated that they need to be doing more of one thing when, I mean, they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, so I'll make it quick. I think just kind of like what you were saying. I can't sit here one week and say, Day has to be smart enough to get out of his own head. Don't don't be the play caller that he's determined to be and take what the defense is giving you. So I can't be mad at him for doing that. But like you said, like it is Arkansas State. I feel like there is a point there. Like I just, there are levels to different things, and they're not on the same, athletically as Ohio State. So there should have been a time where, we could have just said, hey, we're running and we're going to just, punch it in, or you run it down their throats, whatever, however you want to word that. And there just too many guys were being hit at the line or behind the line of scrimmage. So I didn't like that. Definitely, I think Ryan Day talked about that during his press conference. Just you clean it up. He likes that it's going clean, but they're far away from where they need to be running the football.
Yeah. Yeah. I think another thing actually the thing I do like, and when we are going to talk about penalties in this game, because there were so many penalties on the defensive side of the ball, they were actually pretty clean on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
I don't think DeJuan got one false start in the game. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I don't remember a major false start. And I don't remember, and this is actually a second game in a row, I don't remember any holding calls, or maybe one or two, but it's like they've been pretty clean this year on holdings, and that was not the case the year before. They got a lot of holdings and a lot of false starts. Against Notre Dame, they got a lot of false starts, but they it seems like they cleaned up a lot of the offensive penalties. And this game looks so much different if they just didn't have those couple 3-and-outs. Like they were so bad on those 3-and-outs that it's like, what are you guys doing? Like if those are, this game's 45-12. That they could have had 14 more points easily there. If I don't know if they might have punted like a couple more times, but that's basically the two that stand out the most. That I don't even know how many more points they end up getting if they just.
Well, yeah. How different is this game if Trajan Mitchell doesn't go over top of the punch shield? Like if he just goes straight up, which that's is what it is. We're not going to sit here and talk about if it was a penalty, wasn't a penalty, if it's a stupid penalty or not.
Well, it was definitely a penalty because I do think he went more straight up and he was blocked over the guys, but that's not a reviewable play. So you have to determine what a referee sees, and all the referee sees is a guy flipping over. So the referee made the call. The referee made the call. He made a legitimate penalty call. It was, there's nothing you could do about that. When you look at it in slow-mo, I think if there was ever he was blocked over, that should have been given maybe a more of a closer look, but they can't do it. Referee saw what the referee saw in game action time, and it is what it is. It just sucks that was a punt return for a touchdown, even though it would have been called back anyway because of the holding or whatever.
The worst part about it was you let the offense keep the ball, because even with the block in the back, you get to keep the ball, but because of that, Arkansas State kept possession.
Yeah.
Defensively, I'm not too concerned about a lot there. I guess if I want to nitpick, it did seem like some of the RPO stuff was having success against Ohio State, but it did also seem that they made adjustments, that they got tighter up onto the football. We mentioned that a few times during the game, that it seemed like they really started pressing more on the on line of scrimmage. So it seemed like they found a way to kind of neutralize that, but there was a mismatch with that. I know his last name was Fleming. I didn't look. It's a Chaz. I can't remember, but he definitely gave him a hard time. So if I had to nitpick, that would be one. The other one would just be Denzel Burke's performance left a lot to be desired. But I think it's something he'll be okay with.
Yeah, and he did tighten up a little bit more or come back a little bit more in the second half when they let him start playing again. There was a little less opportunities. And Knowles kind of talked about that in his press conference today. He's like, these guys are on islands. We're asking them to do a lot. He did miss some time in it just comes down to reps and stuff like that. And, you know, basically what you got to do is you just got to get them out of the game and you reassess them and then you get them back in the game. And he's like, and he felt that he did better when he came back into the game. And hey, at least it gave J.K. Johnson some good reps. And hopefully this week we have Jordan Hancock back. It seems like we will. And that and then he will, at least we will have another guy in there that could take some reps if needed.
Yeah. You got any defensive concerns outside of that?
I mean, that was kind of like my big playing concern. My biggest concern, and it's with the aggressiveness of the team. It is the penalty situation. They had way too many offsides on the defense, jumping and stuff like that. They caught them on counts, and that's stuff you're gonna have to be more aware of. I mean, you saw that this past weekend. Better teams lost football games this weekend, and you can't be throwing a bunch of stupid penalties out there and letting drives survive and this and that, because if there's a day where your offense is really, really off and you keep on letting teams stay on the field and they just have a hard time. I mean, that's been the one thing over the last couple of years. It seems like when Ohio State's offense sits for a while that they really sometimes it's hard to get their mojo back up. They're actually a very they're that type of team. They need to click, and they click with touchdowns. They score fast. They want the ball back fast. They go score fast again. And it seems like when they get delayed a little bit, that's when they start kind of it just slows them down a little bit. Just takes them out of that repetition that they're in. So I think that you just have to be guarded against that. That you just can't let when you got opportunities to get off the field, don't give stupid offsides. The pass interferences on Burke and stuff, I mean, they are what they are. The one was awful. The other one was not as bad. I mean, I thought it probably should have been a no call. But, I mean, they call them. It's like the pass interference is the same with holding. It's like you can almost call it on every single play if you really want to. And, it depends how nitpicky the refs are. Mm-hmm. And I just I just think with those, I don't like coming down on them on there's good pass interferences and then there's bad pass interferences. The one that was a nitpicky one that I thought they shouldn't call, he was reacting to the ball coming in and he's fine. I don't think he got there early. I don't think he did any aggressive touching. The second one was bad on his part. He was out of place and he definitely pass interfered then. And so, I mean, if he would have actually
got himself around, he probably could have got an interception.
Yeah, if he would have just been in a better position to begin with and been able to turn, it would have been a pick. Probably my only other concern, and we'll talk about this in a second here. I mean, we've kind of already talked about the press conferences, but we'll just mix a press conference. Both Day and Knowles was asked about the turnovers. I think turnovers come when turnovers come. That's kind of what Day and Knowles both said. I thought Knowles brought up some really good points that, there's a lot of ways to stop people on defense, and they're doing pretty good in the other ways. So, he obviously wants turnovers to happen too, but, he just feels when people get more comfortable with the defense that they're just reacting a lot faster, that stuff will all come.
Okay. I guess one last concern. I know we want to move on. Are there just some defensive linemen that they're never going to cut it?
Yeah, I mean,
is it time to just move forward with other guys? And we're not going to call anyone out by name. I mean, I think, some people can assume what they want from that statement. It's not every, upperclassman that I'm not lumping everyone into one group. There's just some guys that, they've struggled to stay healthy throughout their careers. They've struggled to be productive while on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some that were very productive, early on in their careers that they aren't as productive now after some injury issues. And I don't know. I mean, we saw a guy like Caden Curry come out there, and I know it was garbage time, and I know this was addressed in both press conferences, but he played with a motor and he made plays.
Yeah.
And I know it's against twos or threes, whatever, but he made plays, and he deserves the chance to try to make plays against ones.
Yeah. I think on that is I mean, and you can infer the names from this, as I say. Right now, I like rotations that, I don't need whole line rotations, but I do like rotations that keep guys healthy, keep guys fresh. But right now, the playmakers, the people that definitely need to be seeing the bulk of the playing time are, defensive tackles. It's Michael Hall, it's Talik Williams, it's Teron Vincent, and it's Ty Hamilton, in my opinion. And on the outside, it's JTT, it's Sawyer, it's Zach Harrison, and and kind of everybody else from there kind of needs to fill in where they fill in at. And that's probably 60%, 65%, 70% maybe of your snaps. The majority of those guys need to be on the field, and then you kind of you rotate in where you rotate in. And I'd like to see Caden Curry again this week. And if he looks good again, maybe I consider giving him some opportunities against Wisconsin, but I don't know yet. I mean, has he really gotten opportunities against a quality offensive lineman? He had I mean, those back-to-back plays were phenomenal, and I'm assuming probably Arkansas State starting offensive line was still in there, but I don't know at that point. I'm not paying attention to that. So
yeah,
so I don't know. So yeah, maybe if he does it again this week, we see. Maybe if he can you kind of maybe throw him into a rotation and see if what he could be against Wisconsin. I wouldn't mind maybe Sawyer having a more of a legitimate backup behind him. Like it seems like Harrison and JTT, a lot of times they play on the field together. Is the one's a D tackle and one's is that power side defensive end, that true defense, or that bigger defensive end. But I wouldn't necessarily mind seeing somebody that could back up Sawyer a little bit more in the jack positions.
Yeah, and I think that could help, that helps Sawyer, that he can slide down to a natural defensive end also at times, that, he could be on the field with Harrison, or he could be on the field with JT all at the same time. So I think that would help out the team as well. I guess from like what you said, because I agree with you about, who you were talking about. I just don't think the rest of the defensive line, they're not strong enough players that they should all be out there together. I think maybe you could do 2 and 2.
Yeah.
Two guys you mentioned and 2 of the reserves, and they could be out on the field together. But
even 3 and 1. I don't know.
I don't know if you can have 3 of those guys out in the field with, just
I'm talking about 3 of the legitimate guys.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, that would be okay. I think 2 and 2 would be the absolute extreme that you could go to, though.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're strong enough players, and I don't know if they'll ever be, because they aren't yet. So maybe by year's end they'll be different.
Yeah. Maybe that backup, as the jack position gets a little bit more, people get more used to it. Maybe that backup for Sawyer is one of the linebackers. Maybe they try to maybe in a week or two, if a lineman's not showing up, maybe they see if a Taraja Mitchell could do it, or if if Pele could do it, just to throw somebody else out there that they can give either move Sawyer down in a rushman package to where he could play the other defensive end and play Harrison and JTT in the middle, or maybe it's just to give Sawyer a couple, give him a breather here and there, because I mean, I haven't been paying attention to everybody's, but I think he's probably been out there the most. It seems like that's the one position that they're having a hard time finding a natural backup for.
Yeah. Yeah. Pele, that's an interesting one, because he's definitely, that kid's played lights out on special teams. So he's earning time. It's just when you only use 2 linebackers and the 2 are playing as well as they have been,
Yeah.
Hard to get on the field.
It could be that. Even maybe a Chip Trainum. Maybe he could play some of that, be like a jack position or something. I just think that it would be interesting. I think there's a lot of different options. So it would be just different things that they maybe can think of.
Okay. So any positives you want to talk about real quick before going in the press conferences?
I like what I saw offensively from Harrison and Ibuka. Obviously, those guys were phenomenal. I thought the passing game plan, play calling was really good. There is actually a series when you talk about play calling where it was where they had the double tight ends and they reversed them to the other side of they motioned them out of there, and they brought Ibuka across, and on one play they handed it off to Ibuka or tossed it to Ibuka, and then on the next play they ran the exact same thing just to the opposite side of the field, but the Ibuka, that was like a distraction, and they ran it with Trey there. And I think that was the first of his touchdowns. I believe was on that type of play, but I could be wrong there. I thought Trey both looked really good. I mean, maybe I just want to see a little bit more out of them, that they get more opportunities. But like I said, that, I think they were trying to throw a little bit more to get Harrison and Ibuka the play reps that they felt they needed. And, I think the defense, because that double tight end set that they ran a lot and that they were forcibly trying to pull the safeties up, and they did that. And so, then they kind of took advantage of it.
Yep. Yeah. And I'll say for defense, I was happy with Josh Proctor. I thought he came back really strong from what happened last week. And then Steel Chambers played, him and Tommy played very well again. Still got this week. So
Tommy's becoming a beast. Like everything I'm seeing of Tommy is just like that's like old school Ohio State linebacker. He's just like he's there on every play, and like he's just I'm loving it right now.
Might be a conversation for another day. Do you think if they played press man with Jim Knowles as their defensive coordinator, like more so, that they would generate more sacks for their defensive ends?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it could be a possibility. Guys like Burke, he has to be ready for it because, if the quarterback sees the wide receiver flash open real fast, all he's just do is just throw it out there. I mean, I know there could be a safety to, they could do some protections with the safeties and stuff like that. Knowles also ran. I mean, he ran a lot of cover zero this week, and that, I think he likes throwing that stuff on film. I don't necessarily expect that next week, but maybe so, to get ready for Wisconsin, and then they come out into something completely different. So, I mean, he's still really amazing me. I know that maybe they gave up a little bit more than they wanted to this past week, but he's definitely the right man for that defense. They are playing lights, night and day better than.
Well, they would have gave up at least one touchdown in this game.
Yeah, I agree.
So at least one touchdown. So like you said, you don't want to give up 12 to them. You don't want them 3 or 4 times in the red zone, but whatever. It is what it is. You held them to field goals. That's the next best thing if you don't get them off the field without points.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna try to just quickly couple pointers through the press conferences, and then because we're just trying to get out a little earlier today than normal. So I will say the thing that I love most about Ryan Day, because it's just something I kind of mentioned this earlier. It's not playing Arkansas State. You're playing Alabama. You're playing Georgia. You're playing Clemson right now. And he just said, it doesn't matter the opponent. It's always going to be Ohio State. And, they're basically playing against themselves. And, you're playing against those mistakes. And, and a lot of the questions, they were trying to give him, trying to get him to throw some nice praises out there. And he wasn't mean about the team or anything. You could tell he's happy where they're at right now. They just have to improve a lot more. And that he said that, the offensive line's not exactly where they want them yet. The penalties is ridiculous. They want to start getting some turnovers, but that's going to come when it comes. And, he definitely, he has some opinions about that. And after watching this week, he's not wrong, but I think he did a good job illustrating it that it's better to be 2-0 than a 1-1 or whatever,
Right.
or it's better to be this 2-0 than maybe a 2-0. They didn't go 2-0 last year. The 2-0, some of these years that they've had bad. You think about 2018 where they've maybe given up a lot more points than they wanted. So you know but there's definitely things, and the type of football that they're playing right now. Yeah, they would have beat Alabama the other day, but it probably wouldn't beat Georgia. And I know that they're have played some bigger cupcakes than we've played, but our rivals down at the end of the year, they're looking pretty impressive right now. So that could be I don't know. I think that would be a big battle right now, and I think we could still beat them out in talent and stuff. So I mean, but I think we got to get a lot better in different areas to be guaranteed a win against them. Even though I think it would be maybe we would probably win, but I've seen a decent amount from them that they would definitely you start making some penalty mistakes against them that they could really make you pay for it.
Well, I think I've seen enough from them that I don't know that it's going to be easy at the end of the year. So you got to play a clean game, and if you do that, eventually they'll punt the ball a couple times, and that's when it's like in 18 and 19. That's when you start making your differences as you getting the ball back, and then you can put them away. But you can't play a sloppy game and keep them on the field, because then that could be that's what happened last year.
Yeah. And he did say, that he thinks JSN and Julian Fleming will both be back this week. And I said last week that if they were I was okay for them sitting out against Wisconsin. I have no expectations that Toledo's going to beat them, or even come close to beating them. But like after what I saw this weekend, I think that maybe I'm changing my mind on that one. If one of the two are definitely ready to go, and if both are ready to go, like I'm playing them if they want to play, and they're I'm not even 100% yet. Like if they're like both 95% ready, I mean it's football. You're never 100% ready once the season starts. So I think if they can both get to that, they both feel good. They don't have the injury is not necessarily nagging anymore, and maybe it's just a little sore. It doesn't hurt them. Get out there. Maybe you can even have them on a pitch count. I don't care. That get them out there to get a few reps because you're getting Big Ten play starts next week, and it's I want them to be full ready to go for that. We gotta. I mean, I know Wisconsin lost. Iowa's offense looks like crap. Michigan State and Penn State are both kind of like you're not 100% sure where they're at as programs right now, but that's not an easy stretch. You're playing four very good teams, and Rutgers in there that could do, under Shiano, Rutgers has been a different team. So like, it's not an easy end of September through the beginning of November. So like, it's a stretch in there. So I think that if JSN and Fleming are ready to go, Ryan Day talked about that. He wanted to get a good solid rotation going with his receivers, and they thought that's what they were going to, the Wednesday before the Notre Dame game, they thought that's where they were at. And then by the time the second quarter rolls around in Notre Dame game, they're down two receivers. So it's like, and Xavier Johnson's looked really good stepping up. So now you trust him coming into the games. But I want to see what that rotation looks like. Get these guys in there and basically keep coming at teams and knowing that you're not getting a day off. If JSN goes off the field, it's not a day off. Like if Julian Fleming's not out there, it's not a day off. I mean, these are all legitimate guys you're going up against. So if they're ready to play, let them play.
Yeah. I mean, just from what I took from Day's press conference, I liked that he's happy, but he's not happy. It's like, it's kind of like I felt like there have been times in the past with him as a head coach that he hasn't always owned up to, what it means to be a head coach, that he kind of sees himself as like the smartest offensive mind in football. And you got to be that guy. You got to be, you got to coach the team. You got to be the team CEO. I feel like he's starting to really embrace that this year. And he's just kind of like, even if I don't know if he believes it or not, but he's saying the right things. He's, we did this well, but we're not where we need to be. I'm never, he kind of pretty much said he's never satisfied during that press conference. And I think that's the language like he needs to start using, is that, he wants to keep getting better.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably, if he thinks back to it, I mean, it's probably the one that he should take from Urban, is that, that man was never satisfied with anything. They could win 56 to, 5 or whatever.
And he'd find the mistake.
He'll find where the clown show was in the
Right.
game and dwell on it for an entire press conference. So, I mean, but that was Urban. And so, no, I think just Urban, I don't think that first year, Ryan Day, that was his first year. It's like you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And you had Halfley. I think he felt comfortable. They were really good on defense, and he could just kind of wing it around and be good. And then he had he had the COVID season. So, I mean, I think the defense during the COVID season was okay. Last year's defense was far from okay. And I think he probably had a lot of concerns coming into the season. I think Jim Knowles is probably easing him a little bit that, that side of the ball is okay. And, he can really start concentrating again on making sure they have a good offense and that the team overall is good. And because all that matters at the end of the day is, when you go out and face the media on Tuesdays, that, are you in a, we won, but there's a lot of stuff that we have to work on, or, Michigan just pushed us around for 300 yards again, and, or whatever it was. And, we have to, there's a lot of stuff we have to work on. And so I am glad I'm seeing what we're seeing from him. Okay. On the Knowles press conference, I just want to say, just back to that turnover thing again. And, he's right. And I think the turnovers will come when they come. He just said, there's a lot of ways to stop the teams. And, third downs is a way, if, sometimes, teams get yards and they get down into the red zone. Sometimes that's your fault. Sometimes it's just stuff that happens, teams make plays, but can you stop them there? So those are two other ways to stop, the game, stop a team. And yeah, I think they're doing pretty good in that arena. I mean, they've had, 6 scores against them this year, and only one of them's been a touchdown. So, I mean, that is a lot better than last year so far. And that, so, I mean, that's at least something. I agree with him. I think the turnovers are going to come. I think the sacks are going to come too. I know some people mentioned this week that, I know he wasn't necessarily directly asked that on in the press conference, but they're a little bit behind on sacks, I think, where we thought they would be, but they're not behind on tackles for losses. They're, I mean, most running plays, they've hit guys pretty much right at the line of scrimmage, if not behind the line of scrimmage. So again, that's a lot better than where they were at last year at this point. And so I think, that's a good thing. And I think the other thing I just want to throw out there from him is that, I kind of thought it was, he was asked about what he thought about bend but don't break. And, I loved his answer, because he said that he doesn't like teaching it that way, that, it's about getting off the field, and, that's his number one job, is just he wants to get the ball back to the offense as fast as possible. And, so he's never would ever considered bend but not breaking anything he would ever teach. So I like that response.
Yeah, I was a little confused by the line of questioning. Were they like suggesting that was what his defense looks like right now? Because I mean, I think his defense, like we said, there is a lot of stupid penalties that kept those drives alive against Arkansas State. Like, I feel like his defense has been the furthest thing from bend don't break since since the season has started. So I didn't really understand the line of questioning there, but I definitely love the answer that he never wants to be associated with that, nor would he ever associate any of his teams with that moniker, because that's not who he is. And he even said, I have a hard time when, you're up by a lot and you get your second stringers in there being okay with them not getting off the field.
Yeah. And the other, real quick, just the last thing on the turnovers, I laughed on his one response when he said that, he gave up when he was at Duke the one season, and, they made a bowl game that year, and it was great for Duke and all this stuff, but they played Clemson and Florida State in back-to-back weeks. And he's like, we had 10 turnovers and we gave up 100 points. So he's like, you average 5 turnovers a game and then you average 50 points a game. So he's like, I don't know how that was possible or whatever, but he's like, so just something to throw out there that
I mean, I would think I think Ohio State's offense is good enough.
Yeah.
That if he ever had 5 turnover games,
Yeah,
he-
they should
at
win
the
pretty
competition,
easily,
they
but
would win pretty easily. But
I did like that response.
I mean, but it is a different way, it is a good reminder to people that like you don't just win games by turnovers. There's other ways to do it defensively, and they're doing a hell of a job those other ways.
Yeah. I definitely like all the 3 and outs that they've been getting this year, or even maybe 2 series and out. Those were a lot of those were a lot of. I mean, I think a lot of people forget or just maybe put on their blinders that that was a lot of drives last year. They would start, the other team would start compiling first downs on them, and it was like they couldn't get out of their way, and maybe you give up a first down, but you don't on the next 3 downs, you don't. And and he's had a lot of 3 and outs, and he's had a lot of 6 and outs, and they're getting off the field.
Right.
And with this offense, that's just half the battle. It's just give the ball back to the offense, man. And yeah, I would love to see them get some turnovers and give them, and really like if you could give the offense the ball at the 20, that's guaranteed points. If you could maybe even get a pick 6 or whatever yourselves, get guaranteed points. But man, if they get the ball at the 15 and you get it, and they end up having to punt at the 20, and you get it somewhere like on the 40, that's positive. Like that's like I mean, there's nowhere to complain about that one.
No, you're absolutely right.
All right, anything else you want to go over tonight, or we'll get out of here?
No, I think we're good. We'll talk about Toledo here in a couple days, but I think we're good for tonight. I think we have debriefed from Arkansas State, and we can move on to the next one.
Yep, Toledo, and then we get ready for Big Ten play. So
couple primetime games in a row.
Yeah. All right, let's get on out of here.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.